Mom's 65th birthday felt warm and loud. Balloons brushed the ceiling. Cousins sang out of tune. I set the last plate on the table and checked on Mom's pills in my pocket, like I always did. I am Nate, the firstborn. I take her to the clinic, fix the boiler, and sleep in the chair when her knees ache. Halfway through the cake, my younger brother Leo tapped his glass with a fork. "I'll handle her finances from now on," he said, smiling big. People clapped. Auntie Joan wiped a tear. "Finally, some leadership," someone said. I looked at Mom. She smiled, but her hand trembled. "What does that mean?" I asked. Leo spread his arms. "Everything. Bills, property. We need to be realistic about care." He looked around the room like a pastor. I kept quiet. I didn't want to ruin her day. After we took photos, my phone buzzed. A new selfie from the cousins. We all squeezed behind Mom's chair, candles burning, the 6 and the 5 shining. I zoomed in. Behind Mom's shoulder, out in the yard, there was a clean white board stuck in the ground. I blinked and zoomed more. A red banner across the top said "Coming soon." A realtor's sign in our grass during her party. My throat went dry. Leo watched me watching the screen. He lifted his glass, still smiling. At noon, there had been no sign in our yard. I knew, because I had watered the front plants before guests arrived. My hands smelled like wet soil. Now, in the party selfies that kept coming, the sign sat clear as a flag. I stepped onto the porch. The grass was smooth, no post, no hole, no sign. I went back inside and opened the photo details. The realtor picture from the listing page had hidden info. I pulled it up and saved it. The metadata said the photo was taken yesterday at 4:03 p.m. Not today, not during the party, yesterday. I clicked the listing link again. It was already live online, but marked family consent, 48 hours. A clock ticked in red. I walked over to Mom and leaned close so only she could hear. "Did you agree to sell the house?" She shook her head. "No, love," she whispered. "I never said yes." My stomach turned. The care talk was just cover. A trick, dressed like kindness. I looked across the crowded room. Leo was telling a story and pouring champagne into tiny glasses, like he was the host. I locked my jaw and smiled when people looked at me. Inside, I was counting hours and thinking of proof. By morning, Leo had started a war in the family WhatsApp. He posted a screenshot of a bank alert saying I borrowed $3,000 from Mom last month. Some cousins asked if it was true. Others told me to explain myself. I stared at the image. The bank logo was right, but the font in the message was weird, a little too bold. The date said 7:28 p.m. I checked my notes. At 7:28 p.m. that day, I was with Mom at bingo. The hall lights were bright. She wore the purple scarf I bought her. I had a photo of us laughing under the plastic garland. Times don't change to match a lie. I took Mom's phone from the charger and opened WhatsApp settings. There it was, WhatsApp web active on a laptop I didn't know. A green dot. Last active minutes ago. Someone else was reading our chats and sending things. My chest felt tight. I screenshotted the screen and saved it in 2 places. Then I typed in the chat, "I'll answer tonight when I have documents." Stop calling Mom while she's resting. No one stopped. A new picture came in from Auntie Joan. She wrote, "We need stewardship." I didn't answer. I plugged Mom's phone back in and thought about all the places Dad used to hide important things before he died. Every family has a tin somewhere. Ours is blue with a dented lid. It used to hold biscuits when I was small. Later it held house papers. I kept it on the top shelf in Mom's room behind the extra blankets. I pulled it down and set it on the bed. The tin felt light, too light. I opened it, empty, not a single paper, only small crumbs of old sugar and a smell like old metal. In the bottom, I saw a clean rectangle of dust. Something had sat there for years. A key, maybe. I traced the shape with my finger. Mom watched me from the chair. "Dad told me once," she said, slow and soft, "that if anything ever felt wrong, the house would tell you the truth." I didn't understand, but I nodded. I took a slow breath and sent a text to the next-door neighbor who has a doorbell camera. "Any late-night movement last night?" She replied fast. "Check your DMs." A video came through. The timestamp read 2:11 a.m. It showed Leo walking up our path with a backpack. He typed in Mom's door code and slipped inside. 12 minutes later, he came out, the backpack hanging heavy on one shoulder. He looked right at the camera and fixed his hat. Then he walked away. My fingers shook as I saved the clip. I called Leo. He picked up on the second ring. "I came to check on Mom," he said before I spoke. "She gets nervous when the house is full." I pictured the video. At 2:11 a.m. with a backpack? He laughed. I brought groceries. Night milk. You wouldn't know. You were asleep. He said it soft, like a joke. You used Mom's code, I said. 6 taps. You know her pattern. He didn't answer. He hung up. I sat in the kitchen a long time, staring at the fridge magnet that says family means we don't give up. My phone rang again. It was Mr. Ahmed, the bank manager who has known us since we were kids. He said, "Nate, come alone. I can't say much, but I think you should see something." I told Mom I was getting bread and picked up my folder. On the way out, I tucked the doorbell clip into a cloud folder and sent it to an email I only use for safekeeping. Outside, the morning felt too bright. The birds sounded false. At the bank, Mr. Ahmed waved me into his small glass office and shut the door. He tapped a sticky note with his pen and slid it toward me without looking up. A single line was written on it in small letters. Phones lie less than people. On the sticky note, Mr. Ahmed had written, "Device ID on account access not equal to Mom's phone." He tapped the words twice and then put the note under a file like it never existed. "I can't disclose accounts," he said, eyes on a calendar. "But you should know devices matter." I thanked him for the weather, like we were strangers, and left. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and stared at the note burned into my mind. Device ID, not Mom's. If it wasn't Mom's, whose was it? My head showed me a picture. Leo's laptop with 3 stickers on the lid. Black wolf, faded band logo, little yellow sun. I had seen that laptop on his table a dozen times. My phone rang. A woman from the realtor office said, "We're calling about 48-hour consent. If you object, bring proof by Friday morning. If we don't have proof, we waive the clause and move ahead." Friday, 2 days away. My heartbeat sped up. I told her I understood. Then I drove straight to Auntie Joan's house. When I pulled up, she was on the porch holding a fresh piece of paper with a church seal. "The parish named Leo the family steward," she said. "You should stop fighting God and accept help." The paper looked official at first glance. A cross watermark, a seal in blue, a kind sentence about caring for elders. It ended with the vicar's name in a big loop. I held it up to the light. The signature looked wrong, too heavy in the first stroke, too neat in the tail. Auntie smiled too much. "You took this to the clerk already?" I asked. "Not yet," she said. "We will, if you keep resisting." I pulled out my phone and hit video call to the vicar. He answered on the 3rd ring, standing in his office among hymn books. "Father," I said, "did you sign a letter naming Leo family steward?" He frowned. "No, that's not our place. Send me a photo." I showed him. He held his own signature up to the camera on an old certificate. The two did not match. "That is not mine," he said, calm and clear. "Nor is that letter from our office." Auntie's smile fell. She grabbed the paper. "Bad printer," she said, too fast. Then she hung up on the call, stuffed the letter in her bag, and went inside. 10 minutes later, a car door slammed. I watched from down the street as Auntie drove toward Leo's place. My phone buzzed. Mom had texted, "Come home." I remember something Dad hid. I think it matters. Mom sat in her chair by the window, hands folded tight. "I didn't give him power to sell," she said. "I know I didn't. But sometimes my memory plays tricks. It scares me." I sat on the arm of the chair and took her hand. "You remember what Dad said about the house?" I asked. She nodded. "He said the house would tell the truth." She looked around the room, thinking like she was listening to walls. Then she pointed at the old Singer sewing table in the corner. It had a wooden top scratched by years of hems and buttons. "This one," she said. "He liked this table." I slid the fabric basket aside and lifted the machine head. Nothing. I ran my fingers under the edge and felt a tiny metal bump. I pressed it. A soft click answered from inside the base, like a tongue against a tooth. My heart sped up. I pulled the table away from the wall and tilted it. A thin panel in the back shifted loose. Mom leaned forward, breath held. "I haven't seen that since before your father died," she whispered. My hands shook as I pried the panel free. A small dark space opened. I reached in with 2 fingers and felt something cold and solid against my skin. Inside the hidden pocket, my fingers closed around a small brass key, a folded page, and something smooth. I pulled them out and laid them on a towel. The smooth thing was a Polaroid of Dad in the yard, squinting at the sun, holding a hammer like a trophy. The folded page was a letter in his careful hand. I read it out loud for Mom. "If anything happens to me, the house is protected by a living trust. It keeps the roof over your head and stays in the family. No one can sell without both sons signing. If they fight, the trust waits." My throat tightened. At the top it said page 1 of 6. The other pages were missing. Mom touched Dad's picture with her thumb. On the back, he had written, "Hallway wall, second frame." I looked up at the hallway that held all our school photos. The second frame from the left was me with a crooked tie and 2 big ears. I lifted the picture down carefully. My hands learned the weight of it. I turned it over. The backboard was taped with old brown tape. I slid a butter knife under the edge. The tape peeled off slow. I held my breath and lifted the board to see what was hiding behind my own face. Behind the photo board sat a tiny metal safe set into the wall. It was no bigger than a book, with a little keyhole at the bottom. I held up the brass key from the singer. It slid in smooth and turned with a soft click. The door swung open. Inside was a small USB stick in a plastic bag, and Grandma's green ring in a little pouch. Mom pressed the ring to her chest. I plugged the USB into my old laptop that I keep for things like this. A folder opened. At the top was a file named trust_original_scan.pdf. The date on the scan was 7 years ago, months before Dad got sick, long before any steward talk. I clicked. The document showed the trust, clear as day. It said the house was protected. It said 2 signatures were needed to sell, mine and Leo's together. The last page had Dad's neat initials and the witness lines. I printed 2 copies and slid the USB back into the bag. I locked the safe and put my photo back to cover it. My phone buzzed. A new message from the realtor office said, "Reminder, Friday 9 a.m. deadline for family objection proof." I looked at the time. We had less than 2 days. I told Mom I would be back soon. I needed the county clerk. If it's real, the county recorded it, I told myself as I walked into the clerk's office. The room smelled like paper and old carpet. A woman with gray hair and quick eyes listened while I asked for records on our house. She typed, then nodded. "A trust was lodged months ago," she said. "Later amendments were added." My stomach sank. What did they change? She flipped to the page and read aloud. "Original required 2 signatures of adult children for any sale. Amendment says, family steward may authorize sale at his discretion." My mouth went dry. "Who filed the amendment?" I asked. She checked the log. "Brought by courier. Name is on the slip." She slid the screen toward me just enough for my eyes. It read, "Courier, Joan M." The date was 2 weeks ago. "Auntie Joan." The clerk lowered her voice. "We still have the initial scan in the archive," she whispered. "If you want a certified copy, you can request a pull. It shows the first version before any changes." I filled the form with shaky hands. She stamped it and said, "Come back after lunch. It should be ready." Outside, I sat on the steps and texted Mom. "We found the bones. Now we need the skin." She sent back a heart. After lunch, the clerk met me at the counter with a thick envelope. She handed it over like it mattered, because it did. "Certified copy," she said. "Original trust. 2 signature rule." I thanked her 3 times and walked out into sun that felt like a blessing. I opened the envelope on the hood of my car. The copies were clean and heavy with the stamp. At the bottom of the filing log sat the line that bothered me, the amendment courier line with Auntie's name. "Receipts, aisle 3, I muttered, hearing Dad's joke in my head. Then I remembered something else Auntie brags about to anyone who listens. Her dashcam. She loves it. She tells stories about catching a raccoon on it, catching a neighbor backing into a bin. If Auntie carried the amendment, her car had been running. Maybe it saw who handed her the envelope. I called her and asked how she was. She said she was busy. I said I was nearby and would drop off soup. "No need," she said, then paused, then said fine. On her porch, I made small talk and set the soup down. "Oh, Auntie," I said, eyes on her keys. "Does your dash cam record in the church parking lot? I heard about a bump there." Her mouth twitched. "Why?" Cars remember what drivers forget. While Auntie fetched the dashcam card to prove she was careful, I waited by the steps and looked at the garden. She came back with a little card in a plastic case and handed it to me. "You won't find anything," she said, but her voice was tight. I thanked her and took it to Leon's auto shop down the block, where he lets me use the old monitor in the office sometimes. I slid the card in and scrubbed through the week. There it was, the church lot, 2 days before the filing. Auntie's car sat under the big elm. Leo walked up, head down, a brown envelope under his arm. He opened the passenger door and leaned in. His lips moved. I zoomed in grainy. He said, "Use the old stamp." Auntie nodded. She tucked the envelope under the seat. They looked around. They didn't look up at the tiny camera eye. I saved the clip to a new drive and put Auntie's card back the way I found it. I texted a number from the listing page and booked a meeting with Capstone Homes, the developer's rep. I signed it Nate, eldest son. When the auto reply asked for a topic, I wrote, "Option terms, undue influence risk." The slot they sent me was Friday at 10. Capstone didn't buy the house. They bought an option. That's what the rep told me when I sat down in their clean glass office on Friday morning. We hold a right to buy if conditions are true, she said, tapping the paper. I slid over the certified trust copy. The condition was 2 signatures, I said. This amendment says steward. It was filed last week. I believe it's forged. She read fast and frowned. Our contract has a morality clause, she said. If there is undue influence on a vulnerable seller, we void the option, and the deposit is forfeit to the seller. Not to the seller, I said, to the trust. She nodded. To the trust, she repeated. I showed her the WhatsApp web screen, the doorbell clip of Leo at 2:11 a.m., and the dashcam envelope pass. She took notes and asked for copies. Then she slid a printed email across to me. This came from a side address, she said. It was from a burner account, and it said, facilitation fee on close? 3% payable to LJ. It signed off with an initial that could have been anyone's. But the thread header showed the phone number and my chest dropped. It was Leo's number. The rep folded her hands. If you can show me one clear bank tie to that burner, we will act, she said. I texted the burner number on the email while I sat in my car in Capstone's parking lot. Let's settle this brother to brother, I wrote. No lawyers, just family. A minute later, the dots popped up. We can talk, Leo typed. Stay out of this, and I'll make it worth your time. I swallowed and typed back. Cash is messy. Bank transfer is clean. He pushed back, then agreed. Fine. I'll wire you a small fee to calm down, he wrote. No more noise. Give me until tonight. I sent him the details of an account I control that has no link to Mom. I waited with the car off and the window cracked. Around sunset, my phone pinged. It was a wire confirmation for a small amount from an account named LJ Community Consulting, LLC. I stared at it until the letters blurred. LJ, Leo James, Community Consulting. I took a screenshot and 2 photos with another phone in case he tried to recall it. Then I replied, got it. Keep your phone close. I drove to the part of town where mailboxes line a wall in little rented squares. I read the sender line again. An LLC needs an address. The system often uses those mailbox stores. I walked in and asked the clerk if LJ Community Consulting had a box there. The clerk checked a list and nodded toward a row of boxes. New last month, he said. It was under a woman's name, Tessa. I knew Tessa. She had a small salon 2 streets over and had been with Leo on and off. I walked there and stood in the doorway while hair dryers hummed. We're closed, she called. I'm not here for a cut, I said. I'm here about a mailbox and an LLC in your name. She froze. Her eyes darted to the back room. I kept my hands visible. He made me register it, she said in a small voice. He said it was to help Mom. He said I'd get paid for errands. Did he ask you to say anything to Mom? I asked. She pulled out her phone with shaking fingers and tapped a voice note. Leo's voice filled the quiet salon. Just say it's your wish, Mom, he coached softly. Say you want the house sold to fund care. Say you're tired. Tessa put a hand over her mouth. I couldn't sleep after he left, she said. I saved it. I felt both sick and grateful. I need you to read a simple statement at the family gathering on Sunday, I said. Just say what you did and why. She looked at the floor for a long time and then nodded. Okay, we still settle things at one long table with Stu. That's how our family is. On Sunday afternoon, the elders gathered in Auntie's community hall, the one with the brown chairs and the squeaky fan. I arrived with Mom on my arm and a folder under the other. Leo came with Auntie and a smirk he wore like a skulk. Cousins picked sides with their eyes. I did not accuse anyone. I asked questions and let people fill silence. Who signed what? I asked. Who carried what? Who told whom? Leo talked like a teacher, calm and slow. Auntie chimed in with kind words about stewardship. Some cousins nodded. Then Auntie made a mistake. She said we amended because Dad didn't trust Nate. She stopped herself, but it was too late. Dad never called me Nate. He called me Nathan. When people lie, they use the wrong name at the wrong time. I kept my face still. Auntie, I said softly, could you repeat that? She shook her head and looked down. I looked over my shoulder at the projector I had set up, the small one with the quiet fan pointing at the white wall. I brought something to clear this up, I said, and pressed the power button. I clicked play. The wall brightened. First, the certified trust copy filled the wall, the line about 2 signatures in clear black letters. I walked everyone through the stamps and dates. Next, I put up the screenshot of WhatsApp web on Mom's phone showing an active laptop session that wasn't hers. Some cousins leaned forward. Then the doorbell clip. Leo at 2:11 a.m. with a backpack, using Mom's code, leaving with the bag heavier. The room made a sound like a breath. I showed the banknote about device ID, copied onto a clean page. Then the dashcam clip, Leo saying use the old stamp as he handed Auntie the envelope in the church lot. Finally, I played Tessa's saved voice note of Leo coaching Mom. I paused it when his voice said, "Say it's your wish." Auntie covered her mouth. Leo stared at the wall, then at me. "You edited that," he said. "No," I said. "I saved it." I went to the door and opened it wide. In the hallway, a woman in a navy suit from Capstone waited with a folder. "You needed proof," I told her. "Here it is." In front of everyone. The Capstone rep stepped inside and set her folder on the table. She had a calm face, the kind that does not flinch at meetings like this. She read from the option contract. "If undue influence is present," she said to the room, "we are required to void the option." She looked at me. "We also forfeit the deposit to the trust." Then she turned to Leo. "We are forwarding the facilitation fee email from your burner to our council." The room went quiet like all the air had been sucked out. The elders looked at one another, then at Mom, then at me. One by one, they stood up. First Uncle Dan, then Cousin Ruth, then the rest. They walked behind my chair and stood there, not with words, with bodies, not a vote but a stand. Mom's hand found mine under the table. She squeezed once and let go. Leo looked smaller than I remembered. He kept opening his mouth and closing it. The Capstone rep slid a printed notice across to me. "Our system shows the deposit as transferred to the trust account," she said. "Effective now." I slid it into my folder. I didn't smile. Revenge is not a joke. It is a choice to balance a scale. "I don't want you jailed," I told Leo when the room settled. "I want you emptied." He shifted in his chair. "I want every cent you move from Mom's accounts returned. I want LJ Community Consulting dissolved. I want a filmed apology for family records. If you agree, I will not press criminal charges." He crossed his arms and tried to look strong. "You can't prove what you think you can," he said. "You don't have the tin anymore." I thought of the empty biscuit tin and the dust shadow of the missing key. I thought of Dad's note and the singer table. I nodded toward Mom's house keys on the table, and then toward the old sewing table in my mind. "No," I said quietly. "I have the singer." He didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. A low murmur rose around us. Some cousins said do it, some said apologize. The elders watched with faces like stone. I picked up my folder and slid in a new page I had printed that morning, the wire from LJ to me. "You already showed the bank who you are," I said. "You paid me to be quiet." I was not quiet. Auntie's face crumpled. Her hands shook. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small rubber stamp with a church seal. She set it on the table like it was hot. "I'm sorry," she said, tears in her voice. "He said he would settle my debts if I helped. He said it was just paperwork. He said it was for care." She looked at Leo with wet eyes. "I thought you were saving your mother." "I did not know you were saving yourself." Leo stared at the stamp like it might jump. Auntie slid another paper across to me. It was the fake parish letter with the wrong signature. "Keep it," she said. "I don't want it in my house." Then she reached for the little camera light I had clipped to the projector stand and flicked it on. The bright circle landed on the stamp and on her wet hands. "If we are going to do this," she said, chin lifting, "we do it in the light." I nodded once. I didn't feel joy. I felt clean and tired. "Thank you, Auntie," I said. "Truth is heavy. You did the right thing by putting it down. We don't whisper. We document." That was Dad's way, and I made it mine. That night, I edited the projector clips into one clear video and uploaded it to a private link only the family could view. I added the wire from LJ, the fake parish letter, and Auntie's apology. I wrote a short note at the top. "This is what happened. This is what we are doing." I hit send. In the morning, my email chimed. It was Capstone's counsel. "No suit," the note said. "If you publish a mutual statement clearing our company and condemning undue influence. We will also note the voided option and deposit transfer to the trust." I wrote back, agreed. Then I sat with Mom at the kitchen table. Her tea steamed. Her eyes were soft and tired. "Can we keep the house?" she asked, voice small like the day I scraped my knee as a boy. "Yes," I said. "We can keep the house." She closed her eyes and nodded like a wave had passed through her. Outside, the morning looked new. I called a roofer about the leak in the back room and a carpenter about the loose handrail. I called our lawyer about moving the house into a trust with an independent CO trustee. Not Auntie, not Leo. Someone who would not clap at the wrong time. We used the forfeited deposit to fix what the lies had cracked. A new roof, new rails on the steps, a ramp by the porch for Mom when her knees are bad. We moved the property into the trust properly with an independent co-trustee, a woman named Miss K, who speaks softly and carries a big book of rules. We set up a small weekly free clinic in the living room every Thursday, staffed by 2 nurses from the mosque and Miss K's niece who is studying social work. We called it Ruth's Room, after Mom's first name. People brought soup and stories and left with blood pressure numbers and help filling forms. We hung Dad's Polaroid on the wall by the clock. I cleaned out the singer table and oiled the hinges. I left the little hidden panel slightly loose, like a mouth you can open if you know where to press. On a quiet evening, my phone buzzed. A message from Leo, meet me alone, last chance. I stared at the words a long time. Last chance for what? For him to come clean? For me to give in? I sent back a time and a place anyway. Better to end a thing where you can see all the doors. We met at the park by the river at sunset. The water made small sounds against the stones. Leo stood with his hands deep in his pockets. He looked thinner. I made mistakes, he said. I was scared. Debts piled up. I thought I could fix it fast. He looked at me like he wanted me to nod. I didn't. Here are my terms, I said. Pay back every naira, every dollar you move from Mom. Dissolve LJ Community Consulting. Volunteer at Ruth's Room every week for a year. No access to Mom's accounts ever again. If you do that, I won't press charges. He stared at the ground. You can't control me, he said. I'll tell everyone about your temper, about times you yelled, about the time you... He was shaking. I pulled a small flash drive from my pocket and held it out. These are the emails from your burner to Capstone, I said. If you plan to leak family dirt, leak yours first. He didn't take the drive. He turned away and kicked at the stones. You always think you're better than me, he said. I put the drive back in my pocket. No, I said. I think Mom deserves better than both of us on our worst day. 1 year later, the house smells like soup and clean linen on Thursdays. The ramp is sturdy. The roof does not leak. The singer table sits in the corner, quiet and faithful. A small plaque by the front door says, "This home stands because we refuse to sell our mother." Miss K keeps the trust books neat and straight. Ruth's room fills with neighbors who leave with their chins a little higher. I hang my jacket on the hook Dad used and touch the wall where my school photo hides the tiny safe. The USB still sits inside, a little anchor in the plaster. On a clinic afternoon, Leo walks in without looking up. He wears old jeans and a plain shirt. He does not talk. He picks up a bucket and a brush and scrubs the floor by the door. He does it again the next week. The elders watch him with eyes that have seen suns fall and suns get back up. He has not paid back all the money yet, but he pays every month. He stacked chairs last week without being told. Sometimes he brings bread. I don't send my brother to prison in my mind anymore. I send him to work. I send him to pay back, in money, in hours, and in truth. That is what family owes. That is how the house tells the truth.